And welcome to Nancy's Neighborhood. And I hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend. I enjoyed the long weekend, and I hope everybody had a safe weekend. We had a bad storm over on the river. A tree went through my neighbor's house, but they're okay. So I hope everybody else had a really good, safe Labor Day weekend, and that extra day helped everybody, I hope. So now we're going to talk about this event coming up, Cry Out America. And I have Steve Ferrara. I love that. I'd like to drive one of those. And Iris Ray. And they're going to tell us what, who, when, why, everything you can tell us about it.
Iris?
Well, we have an annual event at the courthouse. Generally, there's been a few events that we had elsewhere, but this year it will be at the courthouse one more time. We will be gathering at noon on September the 11th to pray, first of all, for awakening in our nation. And specifically this year, we're going to pray for people who work in the marketplace. Often the marketplace people are they're called on for donations and contributions and involvement, but we don't always take time to pray for them. So this year, we're going to focus on praying for those people who work in fields like marketing, retail, sciences, medicine. So we'll have a little bit of time for scripture reading, a little bit of time for prayer, and we also have worship. We have a large mass choir from several of the churches in our community.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
It'll be a nice night.
Music's always a wonderful touch. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can't reach people with word, then surely you could reach it with music.
Absolutely.
And so I think that is great. So let's go back a little bit. This is not the first year.
No.
And so what initiated this event? Why did everybody decide we need to do this?
Well, of course, it's September 11th, and it's remembrance of the tragedy that happened in 2001. And it's evolved over the different years. We want to, remember what happened and call people back to calling on God. We had a great revival in 2001, and people turned back to God, and we've kind of gotten complacent again. So
yes.
we want to keep that focus on the Lord.
And I think that's great. And, it's a shame that for a lot of us, it takes some kind of major catastrophe like 9/11
right.
till we come back, and then we forget. Mm-hmm. And it's how easily we forget.
Mm-hmm. And as time goes on, there's another generation that didn't experience. Just before we started the program here, we were talking about where were you on 9/11/2001. And it's still so vivid in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I remember somebody saying that they were talking to high school seniors. I'm not picking on y'all, but high school seniors that did not know about the Holocaust.
Sure.
Good golly bub. Why don't they know about the Holocaust?
Sure.
I mean, that was a major atrocity. So this is going to be a nice event.
It will be.
I think that's great. Now, it's going to be on the plaza side of the courthouse.
Yes.
And who all is participating?
We have local marketplace leaders. Lee Stewart is one. I think most people recognize him as a Christian leader in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
And so he'll be presenting for those who work in service industries. We have a few others that are doing retail and hospital leaders, governmental leaders that are actually taking a part in it.
Fantastic.
Blessing the people of our community. So Mayor Rowland will be in his last day.
Oh, yes.
Presenting a blessing over those who work in the marketplace.
I think that's awesome. And I'm in retail, so I'm in the marketplace. And I need to be blessed every day.
For sure.
It's like I was telling somebody the other day. I had 8 boxes at the back door of Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas merchandise. And I was so proud of myself. I got those all unpacked, priced, put on the shelf and everything. Got into the shop the next day, and there were 8 more boxes in the hall. And UPS and FedEx have keys to the shop, and they just come in and leave me these nice things. And so, yes, that day I needed to be blessed because I was so proud of the fact I'd gotten that done. So I think this is awesome. Now, the public's invited.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it'll start at noon. How long do you think it will go? Is it like a lunchtime, like noon to 1?
1 hour.
Okay, 1 hour.
We're committed to keep it to 1 hour.
Love it, Steve. 1 hour. That was with authority there. So, and so let me get back to this is the result of 9/11. But who decided we needed to do this here in Cleveland? Is there a group, or is it a church, or is it how did this come about?
The Center for Spiritual Renewal, which was initiated here in Bradley County,
Okay.
Dr. Robert Fisher
Yes.
initiated probably around 2005. And the initial purpose for the center was to gather people in ministry together and have conversation, just to tear down walls, to have times of prayer and relationship building. And he began to focus on one particular gathering, which was Azusa Street Centennial in California. There was an event 100 years ago, and he gathered ministers together to celebrate that time. Well, as they came together, they began to recognize our nation is in trouble. We really need a spiritual awakening. And so they began thinking about how can we network together to hopefully believe for, pray for a spiritual awakening. And out of that came what is now known as the Awakening America Alliance. Kay Horner, who is here locally, is still the executive director of that organization. And they believed that gathering annually to pray specifically for awakening was the best tool. So on September 11th, recognizing that September the 11th, 2001 was a wake-up call
Yes.
for our
Was it
nation,
ever?
that we needed prayer. They decided that would be the day that we would gather on an annual basis, and to pray at courthouse steps or at the base of a courthouse was intentional at the seat of power of our local government power, and appeal to the ultimate power, which is
Right.
God in heaven. Was very strategic. And so most of the time, most of the gatherings take place at courthouse steps. On the 10th anniversary in 2011, we had over 2,000 gatherings nationwide. It's not quite that many this year. I think things have changed. The Center for Spiritual Renewal has changed hands, and now the Cry to America gathering is under the National Day of Prayer.
Okay.
So they are working to kind of get some energy back and gather coordinators across the nation. So this year, I'm not sure what the number is, but there still are quite a few in some states, more than others. But
Well, that's what I was going to ask you too when you were talking about that. If this was just a local event, but no, if there's a national organization that does this now, does everyone do their Cry Out America on 9/11?
as far as I know, they do, but there may be a few that move their dates and locations. We have moved them always September the 11th, but sometimes into the evening, sometimes different locations.
Because September the 11th will fall on a Sunday every now and then.
Yep.
So you need to be sure everybody can get to church and then get to church and have family time in there. So, yeah. So, and I think this is wonderful. Now, locally, how many people do you all have roughly that's kind of in charge of handling all this?
Well, we have a team of
Probably about
10, 15?
Yeah, I
Oh,
would say,
wow.
yeah. It's a committee that's been in existence. Most people have been on for at least 2 or 3 years that I've been involved.
And I think that's fantastic
My
because
wife and I.
well, and that's great to me. There's a history in when you have committees.
Yes.
And I'm part of the history on some committees, but you need to keep some of those people that know, and you also hate to be the one saying, well, we did that, but it didn't work, because
Sure.
everybody needs to learn. But still, I know there's ups and downs in doing this, and I'm sure there are things that you all have found out.
Well, last year was a good example. We planned a outside gathering in the evening at the
Raider Park.
at Raider Park.
Okay,
But there happened to be a hurricane going through that particular weekend.
that's right.
So fortunately, Peerless Road was a backup. Peerless Road Church was a backup site,
and that was just right up the road
off
from
the
where
road
you were.
at the end of Raider Drive.
Absolutely. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
And it worked out though.
It did. So we have a backup plan again this year.
Okay.
We'll be at Westmore Church of God if the rain doesn't allow us to
Okay.
be outside.
25th and Keats Street.
Yes, okay. So, yeah, and that is still, I know I have an announcement here about what's going to happen there at that church eventually, but, so it's still functioning
It's
as
still a
church.
church.
Yes.
Because their new church is not built yet,
Correct.
and they're
Probably
going
a year
out
out.
on my way in. They're going out on my way in. So, okay, so all people have to do is show up at the courthouse square.
That's it.
Now, let me ask you this, because I do a lot of outside entertaining things. Do they need to bring a chair, or yes?
They're
That'd be a
welcome.
good idea. There'll probably be some chairs set up.
We usually don't have any
Okay.
set up.
There won't be any chairs
Okay,
set up.
but I just want to be sure because I know people have often come to events that are outdoors and there's no place to sit.
Right.
And standing for an hour is
Yeah.
not the best thing in the world for them.
And they may
So-
want to bring an umbrella as well, just in case it's extremely hot or in
That's
case
the
there's a
thought.
little bit of rain.
That's a thought. So, and probably not bring their lunch, since this is more of a religious service, kind of a semi-religious, semi-secular.
Maybe a more solemn
Solemn.
service.
Solemn's a good word, Steve. Thank
Yeah.
you. I couldn't
You're
wasn't
welcome.
coming up with that word. Solemn. It's going to be more of a solemn service, so they really need to be concentrating on what's happening there. So, who will be your leader? Who will be the person that's kicking it off up there at the microphone?
Well, Phil Griffin, who is co-coordinator,
Oh, yeah.
he will be starting things off. Kay Horner will talk about the history of it, and she'll begin the prayer for awakening. And we'll close with Pastor Steve Smart introducing Mayor Rowland and
Oh,
Mayor
okay.
Rowland
Yeah,
saying the
Steve
final
is
prayer.
from Westwood Baptist.
Okay.
Phil is from
Grace Point.
Grace Point Church.
Yeah, I know Phil.
Yeah.
Phil and his brother Mike they're good guys.
Yeah.
And okay, so actually you're going to have Mayor Rowland do the benediction.
Yes.
Wow.
His final official act.
I think that's awesome. I really do. I think it's going to be wonderful. And I'm assuming that he'll already have been installed, won't he,
Kevin, I think the day before.
Okay, I think that's right. Either the 9th or the 10th, something. So I'm sure he'll be there. So, and you may have, I know this sounds, but you may have some politicians there because, there is an election coming up November 2nd.
That's true.
And a lot of these people like to be seen. And I mean, not being ugly, but they just, it's a
Sure.
good opportunity for
reminder.
them. So,
It's a reminder.
Yeah. So I think that's, I think this is a great, in fact, I'm going to let some of my friends know that they need to be there.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try to be there. I can't promise. Some days I can't get away from the shop. I was running late today because I had customers. But I think this is awesome, and I think it's great that y'all have carried it out for this many years because this is like, what, 17th?
I believe this is our 11th
11th.
year.
Okay, so you didn't actually start in 2001.
You
You
know,
started,
The
okay.
prayer gatherings, I believe, started in 2007.
Okay.
And so we've had one ever since.
Well, I think that's awesome. I really do. And thank you all so much. Now, if anybody has any questions, do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook? Can they call somebody?
We do have a Cry Out America Facebook page.
Okay.
And it is just Bradley County Cry Out America.
Okay, very good. So if anybody has any questions or if anybody didn't get the date, September the 11th, noon, Courthouse Plaza, then they can go to the Facebook page. And this will be live on Facebook. So you can share that with all your friends and let everybody know. And Alex, my producer, is behind that glass right there.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps giving me signals. So, but that's what he's here for, is to be sure that we all stay within our time frame. So,
Amen.
Steve and Iris, great to have you all on today. I think this is a marvelous program that you all do, and I hope you have a huge crowd.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being on with me. Folks, don't go away. I'll be right back. This is Library Day. Mr. Hunt's going to come and tell us everything that's happening for the month of September at your library. So don't go away and get out your paper and pencil because you may want to write this down. Watch our commercials, support our sponsors because they pay our bills, and we'll be right back.